Hi everyone, welcome to Spiritual World. My name's Jean, in which I talk about all things related to spirituality so it can empower you on your day-to-day life. Today I'm here to talk about the book called Option B. Now, Option B was a book that I read a couple of years ago, which I actually forgot that I read it. So recently I picked it up and then I noticed I actually read it. Now, this is a fantastic book when it talks to grieving and how to move on for challenging things that can happen to us on our day-to-day life. This is a very beautiful book written by Sandberg and also by Adam Grant. Now, this book talks about whenever you face challenges, adversity, how you can overcome it. Now, today we're going to talk about some of the tippers that could be interesting for you whenever you are going through major challenge. So, when Sherly wrote this book, it was when she lost her husband because they went on a trip together and her husband was running the treadmill and unfortunately probably something happened in the head area and then he fell off from the treadmill and he unfortunately passed away. And Sherly is actually talking about her journey of grief. So I think for all of us, we have all kind of grief, whether it is losing a close one, whether it is rejection, it is failure, it's a job loss, miscarriage, or it could be something major that's impacting your life right now, and you are in that deep grievance. Now, inside of the book Option B, she talked about the theory of Dr. Martin Seligman, and in that theory, he talks about the 3 P's. Now, this is something super interesting, so please hear me out. So one of the P is personalization, which is when you make it personal. 2, it's pervasiveness, when you think it's everywhere. Now, 3, it is actually when you think is permanence. So the idea of permanence, it will permanently stay with that kind of feeling. We will use the example of Sherly. So for example, when she was grieving so deeply, she felt it was all her fault. If she could have run sooner and found her ex-husband Dave sooner, this wouldn't have happened. When I read her story, I was so glad that recently this year she got married to a new man called Tom. Congratulations! And also, it was really important for her to see that it is actually not her fault. And she thought the loss of her husband Dave, it means like everything in her life was ruined. But it turned out it wasn't the case. The earth was still moving, everyone was still living their life. And third is actually permanence. She thought she would have this feeling of permanence. Like she said, I will be sad forever for the remaining of my life. But instead she noticed there were moments that someone would say something or crack a joke. She would temporarily forget about that sadness, that griefness that's happening so deeply inside of her. So it's really important to use the 3 P to fully acknowledge that sometimes the grief is not permanent, that you can overcome all kind of challenges. I will give you another example. So there was a woman and she happened to be Sheryl Sandberg's friend's mentee, actually went to a birthday party and there she bumped into her colleague and her colleague didn't have a ride, so she offered him a ride. Little did she know, when they arrived at his place, he took a weapon and forced him into his house and raped her. Of course, she conducted an investigation and there was a rape kit. She followed the process and it was so painful for her. She thought it was her fault. She said, it's my fault. I shouldn't have given this man a ride. Imagine that. She was just acting out of pure kindness, pure love. And she felt guilty about it. And pervasiveness is, she thinks it's going to destroy everything in her life. And also the ending is the permanent thinking of what will happen. But through this tragedy, this girl is fully better now. based on the book, and then she's bringing the men to the court. So I'm like very happy about this outcome. I think to go through something as tragic as that is very painful. I would never wish it to anyone that has ever gone through that, and the pain and the suffering inside is unbearable. Now let's talk about point 2. The second thing that Adam Grant and Sheryl Sandberg talked about the book was embrace the suck. Meaning that you fully embrace that it was really sucky and it's really terrible, and you acknowledge the emotion instead of pushing it away, and fully acknowledging that it exists and thinking that it could have been so much worse. For example, instead of one person passing, it could have been that person with his kids in the car and it was in a car crash. It would have been so much more devastating, wouldn't it? So if you could think it could have been so much worse, you are still extremely grateful that this is all it happened. So to see grace in every moment, you will be able to feel better. I have to say, the notion of doing gratefulness really changed the state that you're in. Me too, in my most desperate hours, gratefulness really helped me pull through a lot emotional discordance that I would have sometimes. Now, the third point is about Sarah Silk's ring theory. It's a theory that Sarah Silk developed with her colleague Barry Goldman. Now, this is the ring theory. So for example, right now you are in a terrible state. Now you see this is the person in the center. The person is inside of a trauma. It's important for you to draw this circle. So the person that's in the traumatic situation, and you start to draw other circles around it. And on the first closer circle, you put in the closest people that are to you, close friends, family, and things like that. And whoever that goes more and more in the outer circle are the people that you're less close with. So it's very gradual. So for example, this circle could be acquaintances, this is close friends, and things like that. The person that's going through the trauma, what they need the most is comfort and support. It's not you giving advice. It's just comfort and support. If you could be there for them, do you want a cup of coffee? How are you doing today? Just some acknowledgement will really change the state. So when you are going closer to the circle, you have to come in. If you're on this circle here, whenever you are helping the person that's in a traumatic situation, is to just say, hey, are you okay? You just bring comfort in. You don't complain. And whenever you want to complain, let's say if you are on this third layer circle, you could complain to the people outside of the next circle. So whatever comes in needs to be comfort and support. Whatever needs to go out is all complaints. So it really helped Sarah Silk when she created it. She's a doctor, by the way. And then from that perspective, you can actually lean in and helping people in to the inner circle and push out like your complaint and your upsetness to the outside circle. So this is all I wanted to share with you when it comes to grief. Grief is something that is terrible and it's tragic. It could be any form of grief. And to be able to be resilient in those kind of moments requires a lot of self-patience and self-love. So this is all I wanted to share with you today. May everyone have a blessed day. I want the best for you, and I want you the most joyful happiness. Bye-bye for now.